Good evening and welcome to the Royal Opera House, both to our audience here at the Claw studio upstairs, but also to all of you watching live on YouTube around the world. My name is Clemency Burton-Hill. For tonight's Insight, we are continuing our journey into the choreographic world of Kenneth MacMillan. A graduate of the Royal Ballet School and a dancer with the Royal Ballet, MacMillan went on to become one of the great choreographers of the world, creating over 60 ballets. Tonight's event is part of Kenneth MacMillan, a national celebration, which takes place here at the Royal Opera House, and it brings together 6 of the UK's leading ballet companies. Birmingham Royal Ballet, English National Ballet, Northern Ballet, the Royal Ballet, Scottish Ballet and York Dance Project will all be performing 8 works by MacMillan here at the Royal Opera House from the 19th of October until the 1st of November. It's all to mark the 25th anniversary of Kenneth MacMillan's death. And if you'd like to know more, do head on over to the Royal Opera House website where you can find information and tickets. Now, we have an incredible lineup for tonight's event. We'll see members of Northern Ballet rehearsing Gloria, MacMillan's haunting lament for a lost generation. I'll be talking to some of the directors of the UK's leading ballet companies, as well as to Kenneth MacMillan's widow, Deborah, about his legacy. Diana Curry and Gary Harris will tell us how they've brought a lost MacMillan work back to the stage, and we'll see dancers from Scottish Ballet rehearsing MacMillan's dark fairy tale, Le Baiser de la Fée. We'd love to hear your thoughts this evening, so do join in the conversation on social media. You can use the hashtag ROHMacMillan. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming the Artistic Director of Northern Ballet, David Nixon. Hi, David. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us here tonight. It's an incredibly exciting time to be at the Royal Opera House over the next couple of weeks. We've got 6 ballet companies, as I say, sharing the stage. What's it like for Northern Ballet to be part of this festival?
It's actually, I have to use the word phenomenal for us because thanks to Kevin, the Opera House, and Lady Deborah MacMillan, we as a company could never have performed a program like this. So it has opened up the opportunity for my dancers. We just did an entire evening of Sir Kenneth's work, Las Hermanas, Concerto, and Gloria. And what it also means is audiences in the north can see it. And it's just fantastic, yeah.
Well, we're very happy to have you here, and we can see some of your dancers limbering up. What are we going to watch you rehearsing now?
So we're going to look at the Adagio from Gloria, and then what is the Pas de Trois. And in some ways, even though the work is abstract, it is also narrative, and it was very much inspired by Testament of Youth. And what I love about this piece in particular is that it embraces so many different things. There is a narrative if you know the story of the Testament of Youth, and yet it's not dictating it. It's abstract at the same time. It paints pictures. It paints a feeling about World War I. It captures physicality, it captures fearlessness, and it captures what is absolutely exquisite. And for me, it's a work that I think very much sums up the genius of Sir Kenneth. And I'm so proud that we were able to do this at all, let alone here on the Opera House stage.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for putting it so eloquently. I'll let you get on with it now. So we're welcoming dancers of the Northern Ballet, Lorenzo Trosello, Minju Kang, and leading soloist Giuliano Contadini, along with pianist Tim Qualtrough, and they'll be, as we heard, rehearsing Kenneth MacMillan's Gloria. Thank you.
All right, what's really been special about having this opportunity is, as I was explaining the other day, over 50% of our company has been able to partake in a soloist role or 3 or 4 in this program over 2 casts. And it's also been an opportunity to mix more experienced dancers with much younger up-and-coming dancers. So Giuliano and I have worked together for about 11 years, I guess, and he's done pretty much all of our rep, and he's absolutely wonderful. And last year he had a huge success with Casanova. And he's been, yes, Italian Casanova. And he's being joined by two very young dancers to the company. We have Minju, who has come from Hamburg, and she was with the second company before she joined us. So she's a little bit older than Lorenzo, and Lorenzo just joined us just over a year ago from the Royal Ballet School. So this is really a gift for them to be able to do this work. So what we're going to do is look at the pas de deux. They've already been doing this on the stage today. We had a stage rehearsal. So I'm not really going to make them do it through. But we're going to look at some of it, and we're going to do a little bit of correction. I do have to say I'm not a MacMillan expert. There's many of them in this room. So whatever I do say is just my personal take as a director, as a rehearsal director, and even as an audience member, perhaps a little bit. So I'm happy to take my corrections at the end from anybody if I've said something that was incorrect. Unfortunately, Anthony Dowson, who produced the whole evening and who worked very much with them, wasn't here tonight. But we do have Diana Curry, who did stage the production with us as well. So it'll be interesting for her to see it. She hasn't seen it since she was with us in August. So let's start with the pas de deux, all right? Thank you. Okay, thank you. Good. Good. So I want to talk about a few things. I'm sure many of you actually saw Jennifer Penny do this. I have to confess I was a huge fan and a little bit in love with her. And what was so beautiful about her was the simplicity almost that spoke volumes without having to do. And when I was watching these rehearsals with the company, I could see that in these just beautiful, exquisite, simple port de bras. The beginning was better. We also have, between my two casts, I have something very interesting going on because the other cast of Javier and Antoinette, Javier is about there and Antoinette's here. And then Giuliano and Minjo are much similar. And so there's been some sort of need to sort of shift things a little bit because of that proportions that aren't quite the same. Can we look at, I want to just look at over here. No, you know this last lift here? I find it gets too swung to the side, and then she can't keep, and you need to keep your feet pulling down, Minju. Pull your feet down, pull them down, pull them down. That's better. Do you know, sometimes what happens is you're here, and when you go to this move, this leg isn't connecting, and it's got to connect to get down to the floor to the coupe. So really pull from the heels, pull from the heels, pull the heel, up. Yeah, you need to lift her a little bit more into that. That's good. Minju, you know what doesn't help him? From here, when you go to coupe, your leg is away. So it means your hips are going like that, and it's very hard for him. You have to keep it nailed as much as last time. I won't pick on it anymore. See, it's off. Can you do it? Just do it once more. It's back, you go back there. It has to stay there, yeah? That's it. Then you'll be centered for the next thing. Good. Still this opening, I'm watching it from here, finally, and I can still see you take her leg slightly out there rather than keeping it absolutely there. I'm going to be the control. This is good. Now, as you go, keep it, keep it, keep it, keep it. Excellent. Keep it. Yes. Up. It brought a smile to her face. There we go. That's it. And at this moment, we have to go, you have to start lifting into that. Yeah. Minju has just this beautiful port de bras that I actually can watch it all day long. You don't really need to dance. You can just do this. It's beautiful. All right. Shall we pick up just where we stopped, please, Tim? So we'll go into the jeté. Sorry? A little bit back. Good. Thank you. 6 before, guys. Okay, thank you. Good, 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 good. What you can see here, I think all of this stuff that goes around the body was very fresh choreographically, I believe, when MacMillan was making it. And now we do it everywhere. I mean, all the time everybody's wrapping around. And they often do refer to it as MacMillan-esque, which is true. I find this is really odd. Every time the ladies go into this arabesque, they're like sinking like the Titanic. Yeah? How do you get out of it? Yeah, and you have to engage yourself before you do arabesque. Yeah, don't lose the connection behind there in the back leg as you go. That's it. Point your foot. But honey, you go off. Like as you're doing the promenade, you're here, right? And you're going that way, that way. You're going around, and then all of a sudden you start going somewhere else. You really have to keep the focus on her leg there as the pivot point. Better. Now lift in your center. Lift in your center, and now do this next thing. Okay. I think this is one of those steps that all the women dread because they're really not supposed to do an extra releve. But it's very hard because they have to do this pirouette without a lot of power. I still feel you go into the turn, right? But I feel the energy's going there. Instead of the energy's got to continue to there. Continue your energy. That's better. Good. Now, from your stomach, lift up on it. Lift up on it. Good, 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 good. Good. And up. Aha, that one was great. That one was really, 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 really beautiful. Oh, and we get more. We have to complete that section. Excellent. Okay, I'm just aware of time. Shall we just pick up from that, Minju? Did you feel what you did on the second one? It was really beautiful. Yeah, it had the suspension, it had the softness, but it also had sufficient force to make the turn happen. Yeah. Sometimes I've watched the girls and they've literally like gone, God lift me. It's not going to happen. Yes, from the promenade, please. Yeah, thank you. Good, Minju. Float, float. Aha. Better, Jules. Good. Thank you. Going back there. You know this lift from here to the jeté. She's hanging over, isn't she?
Yeah.
You have her like that. When you lift, you have to pick that up there. Yeah? Because otherwise she goes back and she doesn't get, you have to get the hips up to get that suspended feeling. Now pick the hips. No, don't tilt her though. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't go here or there, it goes right in the middle so that the legs can just open from the weightlessness of the hips. There you go. Do you see the difference? How the legs can then move out of the hips as opposed to being affected. Bravo.
Thank you.
All right, Lorenzo. So we'll go on to the trio, please. Sorry? Pas de trois. Ready, Lorenzo? Okay. Sorry, I get hypnotized a bit by that movement, and I find it hard to stop it. Lorenzo. They know the choreography. Yeah, Monica Mason's sitting over there. She knows it. Yeah, you didn't do it. Yeah.
She's gonna go.
Yeah, you didn't get your spacing quite right, I think, into the double. Yeah. You're still doing that funny thing with your leg. Let it go out more and free yourself up. Yeah. Light. Yeah. You know it has a 2 effect instead of a 1 effect? You do whoa, whoa. It's very contemporary. Try to think of it more as, yeah, like you're a big, beautiful bird. And long to it, and long to it, and long to it, and go. 1, 2, up, point. Exactly. All right? Good. There was one moment you needed to put her down better. I'm not sure which one it was. It was right in the beginning, actually. There. Yeah, and then go on. No, it was somewhere else. Yeah, it just didn't feel to me like you put her there. It feels like she fell there. Yeah. It was to 5th. Never mind. If I can't remember it, we can't do it. Lorenzo, I have a question. Yes. What do you think was the most beautiful thing you did just now in that section you did?
The whole thing.
The whole thing. What would you say was, I'm going to say, is the most beautiful moment?
This thing?
No, that was nice, but it was what you did. It was the second position over there because it was absolutely sincere and it was pulled and sustained to the edge. Yeah? That one. Yeah, you don't usually do it quite as beautifully as that. Yeah? It's the same going here. When you do the attitude, in your body it's good, but I feel like you're decapitated in feeling. I feel like as you go, it doesn't go to the feeling. Feel like you're looking for something, looking for it. Go for it. Go. That's it. Good. Yeah? Very good. I have a feeling, am I done? 1 minute. 1 minute. MacMillan's ballets weren't built in a minute, were they? Shall we just pick up where we stopped and see how far we get before it's timeout? All right? Oh yes, Lorenzo wants to do his jetés around. Perfect. Great thinking. Right on it, Lorenzo. Remember, free like a bird. And. Yeah, sorry. Right on it. You ready? And. Free. Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you very much, Francis.
Well, thank you so much. Hypnotic is certainly the word. Thank you to all of you. I'm going to pass you the microphone as if the last thing you probably want to do is speak to us now. But thank you so much to Giuliano, Minju and Lorenzo. Absolutely fantastic to see you rehearsing that. He puts you through your paces, doesn't he? Please use the microphone. Now, you've been rehearsing on the legendary stage of the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden today. How has it been for you?
It was very first time for me being in this such beautiful stage. And of course, it's such an honor to be part of it. And I would say it's one of the best experience I had in my life, in my career so far. But also it could be huge responsibility as a younger generation to bring this such historical ballet back in such a historical place with the right intention. Therefore, we had a great coaching from Diana Curry and Anthony Dawson and our director, David Nixon. Yeah.
Fantastic. Giuliano, perhaps you can tell us, how does Dancing Macmillans work? How do they challenge you as a dancer?
Well, in my experience, it's the sheer amount of detail. It's so precise. There's so much emotion and passion, but nothing is left to chance. So everything has an intention, everything has a purpose. And while you're still enjoying it and you're taken in the moment of performing it, you still have to remember absolutely everything. Counts, placing, positions, and it's just, for me, it was like, it's so interesting to see how his work is absolutely how it was intended. He's always the same, and he's portraying that and bringing that back, that legacy of reproducing those pieces that are so incredible, and to maintain them this way. So for me, it was a challenge, but it was a great pleasure, great honor.
Lorenzo, we saw there what David had said earlier, that not only do you have to be a phenomenal dancer to dance this stuff, but you have to be a cracking actor as well. How much are you thinking about what you have to do with your face, what you're conveying from a sort of dramatic point of view, as well as everything else you're doing with your body and mind and soul?
A lot. And I hope it came across that way. And yeah, because I think that's what people really love about his choreography. It's not just, of course, his steps, they're so original, and it's just something that no one else did, and no one else probably will ever do like him. But at the same time, he puts there's a whole acting session as well as the steps, and that's just, he managed to combine these two things really well. And that's what excites the audience, I think, the most. And that's what's most challenging as well.
Absolutely. Well, challenges abound, but you made light work of it. You're here as part of 6 wonderful dance companies. And Minji, perhaps you can tell us what that feels like. Does it feel very collegial? Have you been spending time? I mean, I was talking to Kevin O'Hare earlier. I think on one of the days we're going to have 200 dancers in the building. I mean, that for me is just so thrilling. What's it like from your perspective as a dancer?
It is really exciting, and I'm sure everyone work on their best, and it's finally the moment of showing, let it out, everything. And I think in every dancers, we would support each other, even though we don't know, because what we do is really similar and it's the same work. So I think we would understand each other, and yeah, it's really exciting.
Giuliano, you're nodding there.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. It's so exciting to see other people from other companies, because it's their journeys, or you remember someone from school, it was a friend, and then you separated for years and years, then you come back together doing similar work, and even seeing other dancers, other qualities, the way they move, and it's inspiring, and it enriches you as much as you might enrich them. And all of the experience of bringing dancers together from all over the world, all over other companies, is just incredible. We don't do it enough, and please, more and more.
Oh, well, I think we could all agree more and more. Lorenzo, we heard that you've recently joined Northern Ballet from the Royal Ballet School. I mean, this is a fantastic advertisement for Leeds, for Northern Ballet. Yeah. Are you proud to be representing?
Yeah, I'm really proud. I'm really excited, especially it's like a great pleasure to be doing this part, especially like my second season. I thank David for this opportunity, and yeah, I think.
I see your sweatband still says Forza Torino, though, so you can take the boy out of Turin. Well, thank you very much indeed to Giuliano, Minju, and Lorenzo. Round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. Grazie. Wonderful to have them. They've already had a very busy day today, and I know that they need to catch a train to Leeds, so wonderful to have them, though, in our midst. Now, don't forget, we'd love to hear from you this evening. We'd love to hear where you're watching, if you're watching on YouTube, and if you have questions or comments, do join the conversation using the hashtag #ROHMacMillan. Now, I'm delighted that we're joined tonight by an extremely illustrious panel now. Please welcome Deborah MacMillan and the directors of some of the UK's leading dance companies, David Bintley, Christopher Hampson, David Nixon once again, and Kevin O'Hare. Welcome to you all. I should mention, of course, that Tamara Rojo and Wayne Eagling are not with us, the other two directors of the companies. They are both on tour and much missed, but what a stellar lineup we have. Thank you so much for all being here. Now, all of your companies are descending on Covent Garden and the Royal Opera House for this national celebration. Is it the first time that you've all come together?
Yes.
It's the right answer. Yeah. And we've heard from the dancers' perspective just how thrilling that is, but what about from your perspective?
I'll go first.
Go on, Kevin, as you've invited everyone.
I think it's so fantastic for us to see it, and I was watching the rehearsal today of Northern Ballet doing Gloria, and to see these dancers take on those, and we all have memories of, we all remember the original cast. I was growing up and saw that cast and saw some of the first performances, but fantastic to see it through fresh eyes, and they're doing it and making light work of the physicality of the steps and the intricate pas de deux, and then knowing Northern Ballet well as I do, I know that they'll give that performance and the dramatic quality that it needs and the poetic quality that ballet needs. So it's thrilling to see. And again, as Lorenzo said, or was it Giuliano, said, for me, seeing people that have come through the school, so I saw Antoinette doing the lead part, and she came all the way through the Royal Ballet School from White Lodge and has had a great career with Northern Ballet, and then to be back here, it's lovely to see that full circle for dancers as well.
Fantastic. Deborah, it's such an amazing celebration. I mean, the first time, as we've just heard. As the custodian of your late husband's legacy, how significant is it that this festival is taking place?
It's very moving, for starters, and thanks to Kevin for suggesting it, because it was his baby. I think there's a range of work being seen, and it shows, I think, the earliest very classical stuff and the latest, the last ballet that he did, the Judas Tree. For me, I mean, I keep getting quite choked up when I see them, because to see youngsters trying all the things they've learnt from scratch, but they've known about, and I watched the rehearsal today, and it was astonishing. It was the energy level, the way they committed themselves. I mean, I'm thrilled. I think it's fabulous. And I agree with whichever dancer said there should be more of it.
Yes, I think we all agreed.
I think the wonderful thing is that David tours, but the others are taking ballets by Kenneth to places that, the British taxpayer has paid for this work. And they should see it. They shouldn't have to come to London and pay a fortune to get here for starters. And the fact that these directors have taken it on and are taking these ballets out, I think is wonderful. And nobody's doing a spoiling tactic anywhere, which often happened in the past. If somebody was scheduling something, another dance company would schedule the same ballet, hoping to cut them up. So none of that's happening. There's a huge collegiate feeling, and I think for the kids all to be together, I call them kids because I'm now very old. But it's wonderful. They'll learn from each other backstage. I don't know how you're going to fit 200 dancers in the building. I don't know where they're going to dress. I think it's going to be
a big old party backstage, isn't it? Yeah. Well, Deborah, you mentioned some of the repertoire there. Kevin, I'm intrigued, and I will bring everyone else in shortly, but just tell us quickly what we're going to see, because it's not the full-length ballets, the Romeo and Juliet, the Manons, the Merlin. It's the one-act ballet. So tell us, how did you decide to put the programme together?
Well, it was, again, collaboration, you know, talking with Deborah and then talking with all the companies. And around the time I had the idea, because the idea came from going actually to see Northern Ballet and thinking how great they would be in Kenneth's work. And so that then got me thinking about how we could celebrate this sort of anniversary. And then I knew that Christopher was doing Baiser de la Fée, going to bring that back and bring it to life. And then David, you know, always has Kenneth MacMillan ballets in the repertoire. And then I knew Tamara, you know, has really, you know, was fabulous dancing those roles here at Covent Garden, so would love the company to do some work. So that's where the idea came from. And then we talked about what ballets would the companies like to do and what would suit their repertoire at the time. And I'd like to say we planned it, but it's a lovely accident that really we're really going through the decades, you know, from I think Baiser de la Fée is 1960, right through to the last ballet that Kenneth ever made, which was Judas Street in 92. So it's fabulous. So you really see that range of work.
And the development is astonishing. So double David, as it were, and Chris, tell us how significant, how central is Macmillan to the lifeblood of your companies?
Well, I think, as Deborah said, I think this is a very moving occasion that we are celebrating, sort of particularly Kenneth's work, because in terms of the Royal Ballet and, of course, Birmingham Royal Ballet, he's part of our DNA. But to see it on the companies that are not, that it isn't their kind of DNA, and David admitting that he's not an expert, whereas we've been brought up dancing and performing these works, I think is really moving. Kenneth, to us, is very important because we see ourselves as another branch of the Royal Ballet story, if you like. And our company, Birmingham Royal Ballet, of course, was Sadler's Wells Royal Ballet and traces its history back to the Sadler's Wells Theatre Ballet, which was the company that, you know, John Cranko and Kenneth MacMillan cut their choreographic teeth on. And we have an exhibition on our floor because I'm determined that as the years go by, that the young dancers who come in, that they don't know our history. So that goes back to the 1930s, and we have a lovely portrait of Kenneth there, and we have pictures of Solitaire and of Danse Concertante and of The Invitation, because these are ballets that he made for our company. So he's tremendously important.
I think justifiably proud there, David Bintley. Tell us about your relationship in terms of the company and Macmillan.
Well,
Chris.
there's a fascinating grounding for Scottish Ballet. I mean, firstly, Kenneth was born in Dunfermline. So
let us not forget, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's make that clear. But also, the choreographers working around at that time, as David mentioned, but there was also our founder, Peter Darrell, was working with Kenneth at the same time. They, you know, and Cranko as well, and they were all creating. It was a real sort of creative time at the Royal Ballet, and for them all to sort of, you know, springboard all over the UK and make these artistic hubs. You know, it's important for Scotland to see Kenneth's work. I'm particularly
claim
thrilled.
him as one of their own.
Absolutely. Well, I'm thrilled that, you know, slightly subversive as we are, what we are doing is taking a work that hasn't been seen in this form since its first season in 1960s. That's really exciting, and probably, like my colleagues have found, that actually seeing a young generation, my generation is probably the last generation that probably knew him at all. So now I feel a great responsibility to be passing on the knowledge, to be passing on the experience, and to be explaining why this disruptive choreographer was so important to the heritage of ballet in the UK.
We're going to talk a little bit more about those disruptions and why he was so revolutionary. But David, just tell us briefly, because we've just seen that in action, a new generation really come alive in those steps. And it was very gratifying, I'd have thought, from your point of view, to see how those young dancers are responding to this work.
Well, unlike my colleagues here, it isn't part of our DNA at Northern Ballet. And it is part of my DNA as a dancer.
When did you first encounter MacMillan?
So I would have first encountered Sir Kenneth with Solitaire, with the National Ballet of Canada, watching it on stage. And it was, the company used to do it, I mean, a long time ago, and it was one of my favorite dancers who performed the lead at the time. And it was just so simply beautiful. But really for me it was, and I'm going to get my head cut off here, I'm afraid, it was Isadora, when the Royal came to Toronto with Isadora, and I just thought, wow, so ballet can be that much more. And I know that was a bit much, and people thought, maybe, but for a young dancer, I think I'm maybe 19 even, and a company that had been quite in a box in some ways, that was just a revelation for me. And you know, the next step was I was on tour with a grant from the government in Canada, and I saw Lynn Seymour dance Anastasia. And these were just like things that, and it was just opening my mind. And of course, through the years, I didn't get to dance a lot of MacMillan. I was always just like, it missed the train, sort of speak. I was supposed to do Romeo with Birmingham Royal Ballet, but their tour was canceled. So that one was off. But I watched so much of it, and my wife in particular danced both first and third movements in concerto, and it was just, you know, such a wonderful thing. So it was always a dream of mine that hopefully one day I would be able to let people work on this great man's choreography, his gift, in my company. And I've always had smaller companies and companies that have sort of a different identity. But there is nothing that, you know, I keep saying we have to go back to the heritage to know where we're going forward. And Glenn Tetley used to say, you go forward with your history on your back. And I feel sometimes like there's this throwing stuff away, and you can't do that. It's a part of who and what we are, and you see it in the choreography. You see his work, and they want to say it's original and new, but it's coming from somewhere. And you know, it's just, I think this is, what I wanted to say before was what's wonderful about this is, I think this is more than just a celebration of Sir Kenneth. I think through him, Kevin has celebrated the companies and the dance ecology in this United Kingdom, and that it is a great, it's in a great place. There's such good leadership, creative people, and extremely amazing dancers. And
absolutely,
you know,
and it's really hard to think of another choreographer whose work could bring everyone together in that way, in such a celebration. We heard that he was disruptive. We talk about him as a revolutionary. Deborah, to what extent did he have history on his shoulder? Did he think he was a revolutionary?
No, I don't think he did at all. No, I mean, he revered the classics. You know, that's where he cut his teeth. He used to say, I learnt to choreograph by being in Sleeping Beauty. I mean, people find that odd, but he, you know, whenever he worked with other companies, he was only interested if their classics were at a real height, you know, that if the technique was there, then he said, I can get them to do anything. I must say, just quickly, he and Peter Darrell were great friends, and when Peter Darrell was director of Scotland and Kenneth was directing the Royal Ballet, they called themselves the Queen of Scotland and the Queen of England. And when they came together as friends, there was a lot of deep bowing went on, and then Kenneth would say, you know, we never met. So, silly. I mean, there was a very silly side to all of them. They're all very silly, actually.
It's a fundamental quality in a great dancer and choreography. Yes. Kevin, though, from your point of view, why was he so revolutionary? How did he change dance? How did he change dancers?
I think he somehow managed to bring out sort of, I mean, people have said it before, but his ballets are about the human condition, and before then, they didn't feel like they were about real people, and they were, you know, maybe a fairy or a swan or whatever, and of course Ashton did some great ballets, but he really with Kenneth, I think it just went in a different direction, and I love the naturalistic way of presenting a story, and I think that is something that then has really become how the Royal Ballet present work. I mean, I think we try and even when we're doing the classics, that is through the way that we do Kenneth's works, and that's come into those classical ballets, and so I think that's really important, and it's sort of taken that edge off the image of a classical ballet and what it should be. And when anybody comes to see, you know, obviously those big works, but are blown away by seeing real people telling real stories. in myling and things.
For those of us who, alas, are not professional dancers, can you tell? Talk us through how, from a technical point of view, in terms of his technique, how he allowed his and enabled his and required his dancers to tell stories in that way. Perhaps, David, you can kick us off.
Yikes.
I mean, were there certain choreographic traits? Was there a certain choreographic language that allowed him to tell those stories?
Well, I think as Deborah says, it's rooted in classicism. He had at his disposal the finest dancers. But sort of against what Deborah's saying, right from the very beginning, it seems to me that kind of genius finds its own time, if you like. And it was the sort of perfect time for Kenneth to be there.
Oh, yes, I agree.
In the 50s and the 60s, when the whole thing was kind of opening up. And in that period, the stuff of his ballets absolutely lent themselves toward this kind of modernity. He was moving away from the kind of romanticism and just the simple need to entertain, which was very much at the heart of Ashton and Cranko. I don't think Kenneth thought about that. And the astonishing thing to me is that I don't think he changed. No. There was no mellowing of Kenneth. His last ballet, the
Judas Tree, is definitely not mellow.
You know, so his whole life, he wasn't seduced by that kind of attempt to please people. Of course, when he wanted to please people, like elite syncopations, he pleased them mightily. But for the main part, he remained, for me, a true modern. And just watching that trio again, oh, it's astonishing. Every single image is just, it is as I'm not sure, as Chris said or David said, it's just burned in your memory. And again, I think another thing that Kevin alluded to is I watch that trio with those lovely dancers, but I see Wayne and I see Julian. And when we've been doing, you know, elite syncopations is never far away from our repertoire, but I saw the general. I was a student at the school. I saw the general rehearsal with all of those people. Wow. And not only is it a great ballet, not only have we seen generation after generation triumph in it, but that original cast lives every time that ballet is danced because he caught them so perfectly.
What kind of responsibility, though, does that mean for the new generation? How can they ever then bring their own identity to it? Is that a sort of burden that they carry? Or?
Well, I mean, personally, I think all performing art are about sort of two things. It's about, you know, the notation, the dots on the page, the words on in the play, and then there's interpretation. And the last thing Kenneth ever wanted was for cloned performances. I mean, I saw years ago now a film of somebody doing myling who had absolutely copied everything right down to the eyebrow of Irek Mukhamedov, and it was dead. So I think what's wonderful with all of you is you know, the notators, you'll learn a bit more about the notation. The notators come in with these are the dots on the page. But the last thing Kenneth wanted was for those dots on the page to stay on the page. And the interpretation in all of the performing arts is what keeps us going and buying tickets.
Absolutely.
You know, otherwise we'd watch, I don't know, cartoons, wouldn't we? You know.
So there's no such thing as a definitive performance,
well,
even though the Lynn Seymours and the Donald McClearys stay in our minds. Chris, I'm interested in how his influence is not only shaping dancers today, but also choreographers, and I'd love to hear from all of you on this, really. But where can we best see Kenneth's influence today in the younger generation of choreographers?
For me, it's twofold. One is the subject matters. You know, as Kevin mentioned, what he did was he allowed ballet to speak about things that were unspeakable before his impact on the ballet world. So in a way, for choreographers now, any story's up for grabs for dance, which I find fascinating. The fluidity of his choreography, you'll see a little bit with Baiser de la Fée, but also with what you saw with Gloria. I mean, as David said in the rehearsal, you know, we have all mined that fluidity because now it's part of our own lexicon. And I think that's really his heritage, that it's going to live on through other choreographers.
Yes.
I thought it was interesting when I was at school, he started a prize and I was one of the first recipients of that prize at White Lodge. And the prize was fantastic. It was an opportunity to go and see lots of different theatre with Kenneth and with Deborah. And I remember that it wasn't ballet he took us to. We went to an opera, we went to a concert, we went to a play, sort of anything but ballet.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that as well, you sort of often hear that his influences were far, far beyond the dance world.
Kevin, how unique is that? And do you see that sort of breadth of curiosity in the Liam Scarlett's or the Chris Wheeldens, the people working today? Do you see that influence trickling down?
Yeah, for sure. And I think he was the catalyst for that. And he was very encouraging, like with Christopher, and I know with Christopher Wheeldon as well. He was one of the first people, I think, to say something to Christopher before he left for America.
He said, go away.
Go away, yeah. It took us 22 years to get him back, you know, but he's back now. And I think when you see what the range of Christopher's work and the influences of that, and of course, you know, Kenneth, one of the last things he did a musical, you know, Carousel, and now Christopher doing American in Paris. So I think people see the importance of that and to really go out there and get as many influences as possible. And that comes then back to your work that you're doing with a classical ballet company.
Because is there a danger in an art form as refined as ballet that there is a sort of insularity, that people get very obsessed with ballet and that's their world? Do you feel to be a great choreographer, to be a great dancer, you do actually need that breadth of influences?
Yeah, and I don't think that's probably so true anymore. I think somebody like Sir Kenneth opened those doors and made it okay to.
And they're all very bolshy. I mean, they really are, aren't they? They don't. When I first met Kenneth, everybody was referred to by their surname. Well, if you did that now, they'd punch you, wouldn't they? They wouldn't put up with it quite right.
David, we had that lovely sense of you watching MacMillan's ballets in Canada growing up. I know that Myling has just been staged for the first time by Houston Ballet. Romeo and Juliet was recently done by Queensland Ballet. It really feels as though there is a sort of international embrace of his work. Do you think that's true, Deborah, and why do you think that's the case, if so?
Well, it's the blessed internet, actually, because until the internet, a lot of people abroad only had to read terrible reviews because he went through a period of getting really, really bad reviews.
Why was that, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. Horrible critics.
None in the room tonight.
I mean, you know, they're not the most attractive people on the earth, I have to say. I mean, it always stuns me that they sit and look at the most beautiful people on the earth and then they go away and write stupid and silly things about them. Anyway, that's just then what's happened, I got very cross at the beginning, as I'm sure David did, who's a choreographer. You know, stuff was being filmed that shouldn't have been filmed, and you'd look on the internet and there'd be stuff filmed from the corner of the stage, and somebody had been, you know, awful. But now there's so much good stuff there that I think abroad people are looking at, certainly Kenneth, and I'm sure everybody else's work, and thinking, wow, we'd like to do that. And the directors are suddenly, who can't afford to come here, but actually, and we're only reading these terrible magazines or reviews, are now actually looking and seeing, and the dancers are moving around a lot. I mean, there are so many good dancers out there now. Lee Shwen Singh in Queensland asked me if he could do Romeo and Juliet, and I knew him from Houston. And I said, how big's your company? And he said, he lied, he said, 34. And there was 26. And I said, there's no way you could do it, darling. It's not possible. And he said, I promise you, I can. He said, I've got retired mature dancers who want to come back into the mature roles, which is wonderful, especially in Romeo. There are so many freelance dancers I can pull in for a season. And they did it. And it was... Stephen Heathcote came and played Lord Capulet, and all sorts of people came in, and it was a remarkable experience. And I think there are a lot of dancers out there now freelancing who don't really want to be in a company. I mean, in Japan, for instance, they freelance all the time. Come together, put something on, and then off they go again. There are millions of brilliant dancers.
Well, we've got,
thousands.
as we've just heard, at least 200 of them descending on the Opera House. I could happily talk to you all evening. Sadly, I'm going to have to move on quite soon. But before I let you go, just if you would, for those who haven't seen an opera, a ballet, did you know about his opera season that we're about to launch? The Macmillan operas. Wouldn't that have been a thing? If you haven't seen a Macmillan ballet, why should you come and why now? As brief and succinct, if you like, Kevin O'Hare.
Gosh. I would come because you'll be moved.
Very good, very succinct.
There you are.
Lovely. David?
You can't top it.
No, you can't wimp out now.
Yeah.
Because it is heritage, but it's living heritage, and it's exquisite. So it's moving, but it's exquisite. For me, it's a painting that's moving. That's how I see Macmillan's work.
A painting that's moving. I love it.
Just extraordinary choreography.
David?
I think this is a whole unique kind of concatenation of circumstances.
Good word.
And a unique choreographer.
Deborah?
And you'll see fabulous dancers from all of these companies. And that's what's the best thing about it, actually.
Well, on that note, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much to our wonderful panel. Deborah, David, Christopher, David and Kevin, thank you so much for being with us. Well, thank you very much indeed to our panel. Thank you also to all of you watching from around the world. We've had people tweeting to let us know that they are in the USA, in Turkey, in Poland, in Brazil. We heard there about the international reach that Kenneth MacMillan's work is having, and it's very lovely to hear from you all. If you'd like to join in the conversation, you can do so using the hashtag #ROHMacMillan. Now, as we've heard, in just a moment, we're going to see dancers from Scottish Ballet rehearsing Le Baiser de la Fée. It was set to Stravinsky's score of the same name, and this dark fairy tale was created in 1960 for the Royal Ballet. Macmillan then reworked the ballet in 1986, but for this revival, the original choreography has been recreated by the notator Diana Curry and with a new production design by Gary Harris. And I'm delighted that both of them are here in Covent Garden this evening. So welcome to you both. Good evening. Thank you so much. First of all, why is this ballet so significant? Let's start with you, Gary.
Oh,
small question to
small
get us going.
question. Well, it's significant for me personally because I'm designing it, and to design a Macmillan ballet is like a gift, totally.
Why?
Well, it's a Macmillan ballet, and it's very special. It's a major revival. In fact, I think it's the only major revival in this whole season of the celebration of Kenneth's work. So it's an absolute honour to work on this ballet. And also, as the guys were saying earlier, you know, it's in the past it would have been something that would have only been done at Covent Garden, and to have other companies in the UK doing all of these fabulous Kenneth works on new dancers with new sets of eyes and new people involved is hugely significant. And you know, I think as the dancers and directors and all of us who are involved in Kenneth's work, to be able to sort of spread that word and be part of that gift of Kenneth's work is a fantastic thing.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Diana, the original ballet had only been partly notated, but you've created a score of the full work. How did you do that?
I had 3 sources available to me. I had a cine film from 1960, which had been remastered, and it was only because it was remastered that it was possible to see exactly what the dancers were doing. So I felt that the whole project was possible. And along with that film, I had some fragments of notation. Faith Worth, who was the first notator ever employed by the Royal Ballet in 1960, was trying to notate everything. And she made some notes of Baiser. Some pages are full, some pages are completely empty. So with that alongside the film, and also the other resource was the original piano reduction score that the accompanist used in the rehearsals when it was being created. So there are wonderful little snippets in there, like Svetlana Pirouette, there's written a note, and Donald Entrance, and Lynn and Six Bridesmaids. So I had lots of clues from the music score as well. And I had all the, what we call the dancers' counts, which are what dancers count to keep them together. They count the phrases of the music. So I had those three things, and I had just a massive desk with all these things laid out, and just spent 3 months.
Is that all?
Putting it all together.
That sounds like a rather speedy job. I mean, it sounds like a hugely complex jigsaw puzzle and sort of...
That's what it was.
Mystery investigation.
Yes,
well, wonderful.
yes.
Very excitingly, we have a score standing by, which is the Benesh notation. And perhaps for those of us who don't know what Benesh notation is, you can explain this magical, and it gives me goosebumps just looking at it, what this magical thing is. Tell us.
This is it, all 80 pages of it. Benesh movement notation is a method of recording dance on paper. Orchestras have their orchestral scores. Ballets also have their scores. It looks like an orchestral score. All the parts are written out underneath each other, and what the dancers do is shown from left to right along a 5-line stave, rather like music. It's a very elegant and comprehensive system, because not only does it tell you what the dancers are doing, it shows you exactly how all the dancers relate to each other, what patterns they're making on the stage, and also how the dance relates to the music. So you get all three elements. You get the movement, the placing on the stage, and the rhythm.
How do you learn it? How are you taught it?
You go to what used to be called the Institute of Choreology, and it's now called the Benesh Institute. At the time when I did it, it was a 2.5-year course, and then you do a placement with a ballet company, produce a score, and if it passes the examiners, then away you go.
Then you are a qualified Benesh notator.
Exactly, yes.
Oh, amazing.
Yes.
And is it as much to be able to read it as well as to... Can anyone who reads a Benesh score also notate one, or is it a specific skill to be able to notate?
There are people who just read notation. But it's rather like a language. You can learn, say, French just by listening to it. But if you really want to understand the system, you need a language. You need to be able to write it. So notators do both.
Well, I feel very lucky. I just touched it. I hope that was okay.
That's
but I feel
fine.
very lucky to be able to see it at such close quarters.
It's got coffee stains.
Please tell me this is not the only one. Does it get copied and copied and copied?
It does,
okay.
yes.
Great.
Yes,
and
yes.
Kenneth, of course, was a great advocate of the Benesh choreography notation system. He was one of the first to use it.
Yeah.
Gary, you've designed new sets and costumes for this production. To what degree were you looking back at the original?
Not a lot. Obviously, I looked at the original video, black and white, and very, very grainy. So there was, detail, but not a lot of detail in the design. Sort of got an idea of the shape. So I basically approached it with fresh eyes. I think the only costume that I sort of brought into this production was the fairy, and just really her silhouette, her shape. But really looked at it, went completely fresh. And Deborah was a great help, because we sort of worked on it together. And it's like Christopher said, it's a mini 3-act ballet, because there's sort of 5 scenes. So we needed somewhere, the land beyond, which is where the fairy and all the sort of evil people live. A place to put that action. And Deborah sent me some photographs that she had taken out of a flight over the Andes, which was just fantastic, because as Deborah said, you usually look at mountains from below looking up, and suddenly looking down on these mountains. You knew they were mountains, but they were, from an extraordinary angle. So I played with them and photocopied them and blew them up and airbrushed them and diddled around. And that was my starting point in which to place the whole ballet. And then the village came. So I wanted a sort of black and white, cold fairyland, and then the village, which was, the warmth of the human beings.
Wow.
And then also sort of keep it traditional in a way, because I think, as we've heard, Kenneth's work was steeped in pure classicism. And then he took it somewhere else. And Fairy's Kiss was a sort of somewhat of a departure for Kenneth, in the sense of it was a fairy tale. And Kenneth said at some point, I don't do fairy tales, I do real. But it isn't, it's a fairy tale, but it's also a very dark fairy tale. So it's still sort of in line with how Kenneth thought of those human emotions and the darkness of people's characters. So,
fantastic.
You know, wanted to sort of play with all those and have background stories for the characters and where they came from. And so, yeah, fresh, really.
Wonderful stuff. Well, thank you both so much for giving those insights into what you both do. Gary Harris and Diana Curry, thank you for joining us.
Cheers.
Well, more special guests joining us now. I'm delighted that we have with us from Scottish Ballet, Barnaby Rook-Bishop and Nicole Conti. Please join me at the piano. Hello to you both. We've already had such a treat. I've been talking to dancers all week about Macmillan and the kind of impact that his work has had on you. And we've been hearing this evening just how magical it is to look at this work on a new generation. Can you tell us, what does Macmillan's work mean to you? Start with you, Barnaby, as you've got the microphone in your hand.
It means a lot to me. Every time I see one of his ballets, the way the story is told is so human. I think even if someone who doesn't go to the ballet match sees one of his works, you don't have to know ballet to feel the story.
And how, as dancers, do you convey that story? How does that differ from working with other choreographers?
I think as humanly as possible, through feeling the emotion yourself. And yeah, for me anyway.
Nicole, what kind of challenges do you feel as a dancer working on a Macmillan ballet?
Well, I'm so honored to now be dancing one of his choreography. I've been looking up to all his work through my, let's say, school process. So now it's really like something amazing for me. And in a way, it's challenging because Le Baiser, as everyone said, tells a story. So for me, the most challenging thing was to tell this story through the steps that were taught to me. So not only to take the steps and make them, of course, the technical challenge is always there, but at the same time to make a sense of what I'm dancing, and to be able to tell this fairy tale.
Wonderful. And Barnaby, just quickly tell us, how exciting is it to be here as part of this national celebration with so many dancers from these 6 companies?
It's really exciting, yeah. I think I can speak on the whole of Scottish Ballet. I think everyone's super excited, yeah, to be coming down, yeah.
Super excited is the technical term. Lovely. Super Barnaby excited. And Nicole, thank you very much indeed. Let me take that off you. We're going to see you. So we're going to see Barnaby and Nicole in action now, working with Christopher Hampson and also pianist Colin Scott.
Okay, so maybe guys just have a little mark through the beginning. I'm just going to do the story so far for you. So we're going to be rehearsing a pas de deux, which comes a little way into the ballet. The beginning of this work, the fairy bestows a kiss on an orphaned baby, and 20 years later comes back to reclaim this young man for herself, but he has since found a lovely fiancée. And so that is the disruption in this fairy tale. And it's fascinating that, typical to Kenneth MacMillan, the sort of subversive way of looking at a story, the choreography for the fairy, which isn't what we're going to see, is actually not the ethereal choreography. The choreography for the fairy is very seductive, it's very physical, and it's much more in line with what you start to see in his later works. This work was choreographed in 1960, and it is absolutely littered with future lifts and promenades and steps that we see in Romeo and Juliet and Manon and Meiling and Anastasia and many of his other works. what we're going to be doing is this short pas de deux for the young man and the fiancée. It's some of the most classical writing in the ballet, and we've heard a lot about how he, revered classicism, and I think you'll see it in this excerpt we're going to do. So, guys, we're going to pick it up from the pull away, from where the core pull you away. Have you got that, Colin? Yeah. Thanks. Okay, let's just stop there. Good. Yeah, great start. Really good, guys. I think it's really important in this duet that even though we've got that classical language, that we keep making it feel spontaneous. So often when you're being brought into these leans, careful not to preempt them with your body. There still needs to be that spontaneous conversation between the two of you. Can we go from this à la seconde and pirouette? That's good. And the second one? Just do that one again, Nicole. Do you know, to me, that it looks like a step, and it needs to have a phrase and a sense of movement to it. The second one. First one's all right. That's it, gentle. Good, just marking on. That's the one. That's exactly the one, Nicole. Good. So as Barnaby just takes you forward there, just that resistance in the body, so you're not leaning into the position. That's it. That's good. That's good. Let's just pick it up. Have you got the à la secondes and pirouettes? Good. Good. Okay, just before this fast section as well, thank you. Yeah, just before we get into this section, that's another opportunity there, guys. After all of this close partnering and close lifting, when you part, that we freshen up the dialogue again. So as you come away, just make sure there's eye contact there and a new part of the story. Yeah. Just try this. Nicole, can you just try leaving your back, just leaving your back a little bit longer before you turn? Yeah. Yeah. You want to try and leave everything there until the last minute. Yeah, really focus. I can see where you're focusing. You need to look right at him straight away. That's it. That's good, yeah. Lower, I think Barnaby, A, hold her up, and B, lower. I think you can just be a little bit lower here. Good, okay. That's good. Here's a seat. Now, they did a performance last night in Edinburgh, and right now, it's actually being performed in Edinburgh at this very moment. So I can give them their notes from last night, which was, in your solo, you have this movement where you come away from this fifth, and it's the same one here. So you need to reference that. So have the fifth. That's it. Absolutely. Good. Are you looking at him? You don't need to make that much eye contact. I think you're looking at, I think just a sense that we can figure it out. Yeah, you just give us an essence that you're looking back. Good. Yeah, very nice. We just pick it up. Have you got just before this? Just before there. Here we go. Okay, let's just stop there. Good, guys. Looking nice. Good. Lovely eye contact. Juliet. Yeah. Those Juliet arabesques. Really punch that foot lighter on the foot. So, Nicole, just to get it lighter. Once you've committed to this, it needs to come off the floor very fast as you bring your left leg down. Up, up. You're staying on it, and it needs to come off the floor. Up, up. Yeah, little far. The last two. Yeah, last two are good. Yes, yes, yes. Great. Really light. Let's go from this fast section. I remember Donald talking about more in the body. Yeah. So, really the leg is the counter shape to this very, very big arc in the body. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go from this fast section. Nice and playful. Good. Good. More body, Barnaby. Okay, let's just stop there. Good. All right, just let Barnaby have a breather. Macmillan's known for quite difficult pas de deux, and in this section you've just seen that's 3 pressage lifts over the head with his left arm carrying most of the weight. You probably want it more in the right arm if you're right-handed, and 3 in a row consecutively. Before this pas de deux, he's also just done a very long solo, and in this production, there are 5 pas de deux. So there's 5 pas de deux. Just to give you a sort of, comparison, Myling has, I think, 7 or 8, and that's a 3-act ballet. So this is just a 1-act work with 5 pas de deux in it for the man. So it's really punishing. But that was excellent. Just keep your foot pointed all the way down. And we need a bit of stillness, guys. You set up this lovely, playful relationship, and then just when you're away from each other, stillness before you go in for the turn and pressage. Yeah. Can we have a listen to a lead into those 3 lifts? Sorry. There you go, do 6 of them now. Point the foot, tendu, tendu. Good. Stillness. No. Thank you, yeah. A little.
Okay.
More from you, actually, though, than from you, Nicole, to be honest.
Okay.
That's for a little bit, but yeah, it's just as you step back that there's a moment, yeah? One more time. Thank you. Stillness. Good. Okay, good. All right, thanks. That's good. Yeah. Just a bit more hang off his neck there. Hang off his neck in this, yeah. Between the two. Do it one more time. There you go. Good. Yeah. And just this role, you know, much more familiar territory for this. It's a bit more MacMillan-esque, is once you're through here, keep the story going back to him. Just careful you're not just rolling functionally. Yeah. Keep the story going. Back to him, back to him, back to him. There you are. Good. All right. Good. All right. Just have a little breather. I thought what we could do is, because they performed it last night, I thought we'll just get them to perform the pas de deux for you, if that's all right. Good. If that's all right. Yeah, good, guys. All right. So this scene is the young man has interrupted the preparations that are happening for her wedding, and he shouldn't be seeing her in her bridal gown, but it's a ballet, so he's going to. And this is their love pas de deux. No, from where they walk in after the big lift. Yeah, thank you.
you so much.
Well done. That was great.
Thank you to our wonderful dancers. Absolutely glorious from Barnaby Rook-Bishop and Nicole Conti. And thank you so much. What a glorious end to what's been, I hope you agree, an absolutely riveting insight into the legacy of Kenneth MacMillan. Now, we've had some lovely comments coming in on YouTube and Twitter this evening. Mr. Happy Feet Official says, I could listen to this panel for another hour. I could have definitely done the same too, so thank you, Mr. Happy Feet. Chris Ruthich, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, says, beautiful Gloria rehearsal from the Northern Ballet dancer and another wonderful evening at the Royal Ballet. And we've also heard from Gavin William McCaig, who is a dancer with the Northern Ballet, watching at home, saying absolutely fascinating talk by the directors. Thank you to everyone who's been watching around the world. Now, as I mentioned, Kenneth MacMillan, a national celebration, will be here on stage at the Royal Opera House from the 19th of November until the 1st of 19th of October until the 1st of November. We don't even have to wait that long. It's here next week. If you'd like to be part of it, tickets are available and lots more information too on the Royal Opera House website. Now, a huge thank you to our wonderful guests tonight, but also to all of you, as I mentioned, to those of you watching around the world on YouTube, but also to this fabulously attentive and wonderful audience here in the Claw studio upstairs. From all of us here at Covent Garden, good night.